Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Dr. Ron C. Smith, the Vice President of Education Initiatives for Salesforce. So excited to be here to have this super important conversation around race and how we understand the connection to family, to the heart, to the mind, to students, and just really have a conversation so we can learn more as we move forward and really look to change the world. So today we have an amazing speaker who's going to talk to us about some work that she's done, some experiences that she's had, and really look to align the work to help change the world. So I'm going to introduce Taimani Reed, who will go and talk to us a little bit. But first, let's hear a little bit about Taimani.
Hi, my name's Taimani Emerald, and I'm an illustrator and designer, and I specialize in creating whimsical illustrations that promote anti-racism, kindness, and empowerment for children.
Really excited to be here and have this conversation. It's so important right now. It's so important to Salesforce and to the world. And really just want to jump in and really pick your brain and really hear from you about all the great work you're doing. So to start, can you really tell us about the process of developing an anti-racist ABC poster? How'd that come about?
The process is I'm a mother. So basically George Floyd, he's on the ground on our giant TV and he's yelling mama, and that stabbed me in the heart, of course. And then what just drove the knife in was my kid coming up to me afterwards saying, "Mama, why are you crying? Mama, what's wrong?" And he's a biracial little boy, he's a brown boy, and for me, I just didn't want to tell him what the world could do to him, but obviously he needs to know, because he's definitely old enough to experience racism. And he also, being a biracial child, has more privilege than other black babies in this world. So it was really important to me to create something to tell him about his privilege, to tell him about the drawbacks that he's going to have in his life growing up, and about how we can change it. And we were learning our ABCs already. So I just thought, we can do two birds with one stone. So I talked to a lot of families in the area and a lot of teachers, and I just said, hey, what words are we being asked questions about by our children? What words do we feel like it's important to define for them? What words do we feel like have really ugly definitions that they still need to know about? And how can we do this in a soft way? And so I just compiled a list, and then I got to drawing, and that's kind of how A's for Allies was born.
I hear the passion, and I hear the emotion in your voice, and so that means so much, especially having young boys myself. I can see that the question was hard. And I'd really love to hear, when he first came to you, what did that draw? What emotion, what feeling did that come when he came and asked you that question?
Mostly fear.
Yeah.
I didn't want, I was just afraid to tell him to have these conversations, because for me, growing up, the conversations about racism were, if somebody accuses you of something, just walk away, because that could end up taking your life. Or if somebody, if a white person is a cop and they pull you over, make sure they see your hands. It was the instructions to survive. And I wanted to give him more than that, also because he has privilege. He is a lot lighter than me, so the instructions to survive don't all necessarily apply to him. But there have been times, from the times when he was 4 months old, where a woman called him a half monkey because she saw that I was his mother. And there were times when his brother was denied medical care. And so they have already experienced this racism, and they have already nearly died from it. And I am not going to raise more racist children. I'm not going to raise children who don't know that the world that we live in and the power that they have to change it. And so for me, it was a fear, but also just a pure determination that if I want a better world for my kids, I have to make it. I mentioned that my children are biracial. Obviously, my husband is white. And we were having those very intense conversations in our home because he's coming from a place of privilege. He's coming from a place of never having to experience racism outside of our relationship. And it is truly a completely different world that he gets to live in. And I say gets to because it is a privilege to be a white person in America. And I also, like, it just kind of hit me one day when we're having these conversations about things that his parents might say or things that his friends might say, and like how they affect me. And it was just like, he genuinely didn't know and didn't understand. And this isn't our marriage. My husband and I have been together for a very long time before we were married. And how, like, this divide within a very healthy marriage is going to be so much more of a chasm in a country that is basically at each other's throats right now.
Correct.
And I was just like, we have to have these conversations. And I know that we can have them in a healthy way. And I know that we can walk away loving each other because that's what we're doing in our home. And yes, I created this poster for children, but there have been people all the way up to the age of 60 relearning about racism with this poster because it just puts it in bite-sized information. And sometimes that's what we need, is to just dumb it down. Like, just water it down so much, all the way to the very basics of just like, Black people are being hurt. This is why Black people are being hurt. This is how we can change it. And we don't necessarily need all of the analytics and like all of that is so important still. But at the very beginning, at the very base of it, like, we can just take away the politics and just say, like, Black lives matter and Black lives are dying. And just taking away that veil of politics and emotions, which you have to take away when you're talking to children, it has really driven so many beautiful conversations in my life, in my community, and at this point across the world, since the poster is going everywhere, which is amazing.
I appreciate your passion and your emotion. Like I said, it's a hard topic to talk about, but to experience it and then really work your way through it, that's just amazing. So really, thank you for sharing that. Before we share the poster, because I definitely want to see that and have you walk us through the alphabet, just one more final question. Why do you think at the end of the day, and you've said so much already, but just why do you think, children and education are so fundamental to the anti-racist movement? Why is it critical, especially right now, for children and education to be linked and growing together?
Because if we don't change the way we raise our kids, we're just going to keep raising racist children. And it's as simple as that. We can't wait for the racist generation to die off because they're going to raise more children. They're going to continue procreating until they die. Just like every other generation. And it just perpetuates the cycle. So if we change the way that we're teaching our children, if we change the way we talk about racism and about slavery and about Black people, and instead of saying, oh, they were slaves and mistresses, no, they were hostages. They were people being raped and molested and beat and forced to work. And now we have come out of it and offered so much to the world that isn't even being taught in schools. We are not taught about the Black man who helped design Washington, D.C. We are not taught about the Black man who made peanut butter that's on every kid's school sandwich. We don't talk about those things. When Obama was president, I was in high school. We didn't talk about him. We were still talking about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and people who had slaves. So why are our little Black babies not being represented? Why don't they get to see good things about themselves? And why don't white kids get to see good things that Black people are doing? We have to completely change our curriculum. We have to add in ethnic studies. We have to add in and promote and serve teachers of color as well, so that kids can be learning from role models of color. There is no way for us to change our future if we don't change the way that we're raising and teaching our children.
Definitely appreciate the passion and the words, and again, really inspirational for people to come out and make the change. So definitely want to make sure that that voice is heard, make sure that your story is heard, and people are excited to just listen and learn, because that's how it starts. You have to listen, you have to learn. So thank you for that. But speaking of all that, can you show us the poster and just walk us through the alphabet? Love to see and hear more about it.
Yeah, so this is A is for ally. It's obviously the first one is A is for LA, B is for black, C is for colonization, D is for diversity, E is for equality, F is for fragility, G for gentrification, H for history, I for inclusion, J for justice, K for kindness, L for love, M for movement, N for no excuses, O for oppression, P for privilege, Q for question, R for race, S for stand up, T for teach, U for unity, V for validate, W for wealth disparity, X for xenophobia, Y for youth activism, and Z for zenith.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just a final question, because as you were going through it, I was like, which one stands out to you? When you look at the poster, which one just goes to your eye and you're drawn to it as the one that you want to start with?
To me, I formatted this so that K and L would be in the center for kindness and love, because I do think we really need to reevaluate our definitions of what kindness means and what love means, especially with the colorblind mentality that a lot of people are promoting right now, that, oh, I just don't see color, but that's not safe. Like, we need to see what is happening to our people of color at an alarming rate in comparison to white citizens, and it would be a kindness to see that, acknowledge that, and help us heal.
Well, Taimani, I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much. And the one thing, if I heard anything coming out today, was the kindness and love that you have. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, and appreciate everything you're doing. And please continue the hard work for your children, for all the other children, for all the other couples that need to hear your message and to learn that through kindness and love, through heart and passion, connecting the heart and the mind, we can change that and make sure the world understands that racism is not acceptable. So thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to add before we conclude today?
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.